What's the worst cheating story you've ever heard? Firefighter asked another firefighter to cover his shift by working for him. He then went and had sex with his wife that day. One of my wife's cousins died of cancer after a 30-year marriage. When her husband was clearing out her home office, he found a box with diaries, receipts, letters, hotel keys, detailing the hundreds of times she cheated on him with random guys throughout their whole marriage, going so far as to take their daughters to meetups and gaslighting them about what was happening. Couple was together for 8 years, both working at sea on the same ship for 8 11-week trips, bought the house and heading towards marriage, kids, etc., etc. Start a 11-week trip and noticed something wasn't right. Girl had fucked another crew member on the trip off and wanted to be with them. Guy had to watch the start of the new relationship while on a floating prison and due to his qualifications couldn't leave the ship. Source: me, I am that guy. Former colleague of mine in his mid-30s was living with his long-term girlfriend and they had been shopping for engagement rings. He comes to work one day and early afternoon receives a text from her telling him she's seeing someone else, has packed up the house and moved out to live with the other guy. No apology, no further explanation. She then immediately blocked him and left him to deal with the rent and other bills on his own. He was a nice guy. It was horrendous to see that happen to him. He's now happily married, to someone else of course. I was an IT contractor for the Department of Defense, NMCI for those curious. We got a keyword alert on an email conversation, then more. Same folks involved. So we went and checked out the email and the email thread. Turns out it was a senior chief who was talking to nearly a half dozen women under his chain of command that he was having affairs with, multiples of which were pregnant with his children. He, of course, was married, having 4 kids with his wife. What started out with a, "Hey, you're not supposed to discuss that on regular email" investigation turned into a massive scandal, wrecking multiple marriages and turned into a whole lot of meetings with his very angry CO. Don't do stupid shit on company email. And really don't do stupid shit on DoD servers. I worked in a factory. We will call them Ben and Sarah. Ben was the supervisor of maintenance and Sarah worked setup, sort of a maintenance person specialized for that specific production line. Ben's wife was diagnosed with terminal cancer. When this happened, Ben started cheating on his wife with Sarah. He had quite a bit of money and promised Sarah that after his wife passed, they'd move away to a beautiful cabin in British Columbia in the mountains. I caught them boning in the maintenance office one midnight shift. I didn't report it because I was a dumb 21-year-old. Long story short, Ben promised Sarah the world after his wife passed. Welp. His wife ended up beating this terminal diagnosis and he broke it off with Sarah. This literally drove Sarah insane, and she was forced to check into a mental hospital. I never saw her again after that. When I was a police officer, a coworker found his wife in bed with another police officer from the same district. Wife would tell the lover about husband's week schedule, and lover would have his changed in order to have sex with the wife while husband was working. Problem was, one day husband got dismissed 3 hours early and went back home without texting his wife first. He had some suspects but could never imagine about another police officer. No shots were fired that day, luckily. Not me, but my best friend. He was madly in love with a woman and wanted to marry her. They lived together and were very happy. As a birthday gift, she bought him a plane ticket so he could fly out to see me. While he was with me, he would talk to her every so often. Every time he got off the phone with her, he would tell me something just wasn't right. His spidey sense was tingling. He came home to find evidence that she had someone over at their place. She initially denied it, but eventually she admitted to having a male coworker in the house. Her buying the ticket was just a way for her to have the place to herself for a 3-day sex romp. My buddy was devastated and heartbroken. It took him years to recover. Edit. This was many years ago. My buddy is doing just fine and is in a happy, healthy relationship. The woman in the story, not so much. She bottomed out in life. Drugs and alcohol eventually took over. Last I heard, she was quasi-homeless and had to shack up with a much older, controlling man just so she could have a place to sleep. Everyone got what they deserved in the end. My friend had a massive heart attack and having sex was hard for him for a while. He worked and his wife didn't. He fell asleep in the chair one morning while getting ready for work. He awoke to a man unlocking his door. For about a year while he was at work, His wife had different men with keys to the house coming over to have sex with her. I know someone who regularly cheated on their out-of-town girlfriend. I guess he was going to cut all that out when she finished her advanced degree program out of state. She moved to his state, and they got an apartment together. While in the shower, his phone is buzzing with messages. She finds the girl's username sending all these messages and decides to send her a direct message from her own account, and the other girl was completely honest with her. "I know who you are. I hook up with your BF all the time, including last weekend at your new apartment in your bed, etc., etc. One day I get a call from a friend who I would see every few months. He was pissed off, crying, and said he needed someone to have a beer with and talk to. I go meet him at a local bar and he's fucking losing it. He starts telling me the story that a few months ago he had a mate he went to the military with fall on hard times and became homeless. To help him out, he paid for him to get a moving truck and move all his stuff down to his house and live with him for a while to get situated. He moves in, my buddy gets him a job somewhere, and he's doing great and doing much better for himself. Well, one night, my buddy wakes up in the middle of the night and his wife is gone, and he looks around the house and can't find his wife anywhere. And he notices his buddy is also gone. He goes out to his driveway and his truck windows are all covered in steam. He opens the door to see his wife's face bent over while his buddy is plowing her from behind. He said he ran in the house infuriated, my guess is to grab something, then ran back out and his buddy was gone, and his wife was still getting dressed in his truck. They end up getting divorced and he was single for several years doing his thing. I only really see this friend from social media now, but see that him and his ex-wife got remarried and had more kids together. I don't know how he accepted her back after that scene.